All right, welcome to episode 9 of the At Bat Podcast presented by WARR Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez along with Miles Porter. How we doing, man?
Hey, doing good. Doing good. Had a good weekend of baseball, so going into this week feeling good about myself and
Oh,
how we
oh
played.
yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, we'll start off right there, man, and we call it Miles Corner. I'm not sure I established that last week, but we're gonna start off every show as long as Miles is playing baseball. Just to see your overall stats, but also how your team did, individual and team wise. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about the weekend, man.
Yeah. So we had 3 games this weekend, played well. First game we won 28-4. The bats just absolutely exploded.
Cubs and Pirates style.
Yeah. It felt good to be on the winning side of that
Yeah.
for sure. Had a great 3 for 4 game. Drove in 5 RBIs in that first game. Second game was very close against his Racine, uh, one of our rival teams in the Wisconsin area. Almost had a game time grand slam in the bottom of the 8th inning, and it was caught right at the fence. And I was telling my coach, had that ball gone over, I would have been talking ridiculous trash around the bases because there was a lot of back and forth that game. But had a great 2 for 5 game, hit the ball hard. I
Mhm.
just had one kind of taken away from me. And,
Oh man,
um,
you probably would have been like Tim Anderson in New York. I mean, like,
yeah, 100%. I would have been shushing. Oh god, I would have been talking around the bases. They would have hated me. And then the last game we won 17-0. And another
damn.
3 for 4 game, almost hit for the cycle. But had a broken bat, and the bat, like, I swing and then it snaps in two, and then it's flying towards the third baseman. So I'm watching the bat, and I'm like, oh no, that's gonna hit the third baseman. But it was I had a base hit, and I was like, oh wait, I got to run to first. It was hilarious.
Oh
So
my
really
god.
good weekend of baseball, and I look forward to getting back at it on Sunday against the Blue Sox. So
Nice, nice. And then what's your guys' overall record now? Is it what 4-1 or five
we're five and
or
one. We're five and
five
one
and
at the
one?
moment. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
playing well right now.
That's a good start right there, man. That's what we
Yeah.
like to hear.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Now 5-1 is what we wish the Cubs would have started off as, or both Chicago teams in general because it's
Right.
tough, look at. But yeah, the Cubs go into this week now 19-27. Recording this on a Monday, so they're currently playing a doubleheader against the Brewers. But yeah, they played the Reds and the White Sox last week, and it was a tough go regardless on both sides of the series.
Yeah.
Weren't able to get a series win. The Red series, I mean, it started off well. They won the first 2 games, but in the final 2 games, it was just like pretty ugly. I know that you were talking about a game where you won. What was it? 20? What did you say it was? It
It
was
was
20 something.
Yeah, it was a lot to 28-4.
Yeah, 20-4, right? Yeah, Cubs
Yeah,
lost 20 to
yeah,
5. So
yeah.
that's rough. And then but I will say though this everyone was like, oh, the Cubs lost 20 to 5, 20. I was like, technically 15 to 5. 5 of those runs were Andrelton Simmons pitching. It don't count,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But also it was cool. I mean, it's been good to see Christopher Morel play and how he's been playing. Man, that dude is just exciting to watch. Like
Yeah,
it's like for a Cubs team that's been struggling. It's to have a player like that is like so entertaining. It's like a breath of fresh air.
yeah,
So
yeah.
but besides that, against the White Sox, it was cool to see again Keegan Thompson go out there and pitch a great game. It was good to see Stroman, Marcus Stroman, really show all the sides of his game when it comes to pitching and defense. But of course, the Cubs were able to win Game 1, but they lost Game 2. Some other notes on that. I mean, Seiya Suzuki is kind of facing his second injury
Yeah.
situation with his finger sliding into second base in Cincinnati. But he's hopefully avoiding the injured list. Wade Miley is unfortunately back on the injured list, which sucks to
Oh,
hear.
yeah, it
Um,
stinks.
but yeah, overall, I mean, when it comes to the Reds, we'll talk and we'll go more in depth into um the White Sox later. We actually have our second guest of the program history. It's Chris Pennant. He's part of WARR Media, but he also hosts his own podcast called the Skyhook Pod, where he talks Chicago Sky basketball and also covering the rest of the WNBA. He hosts that with James K. So yeah, Miles, just tell me a little bit overall, like your thoughts on the Cubs week against the Reds in general. Like, what did you see?
Yeah, those are I think there are definitely little signs that I enjoyed seeing in terms of certain parts of their offensive standpoint. But not as great as we can be. Very, very competitive games though. And for me, still regardless of the score, uh, and you see it. You see that edge between Votto and the bullpen, and just the back and forth is going on that takes place. David Ross getting tossed in the game. I think I love that fire. I love that fire that they have and that they're playing with. And they're just not taking it from anyone. Rowan Wick, who I think has been pretty solid this year. To see him and Joey Votto go back and forth a little bit, I kind of liked it a little bit. There's definitely an edge that the Cubs have been playing with. I think Keegan Thompson continues to be solid. I love that he continues to have success on the mound, and I see them stretching his innings a bit more. And so there's a lot of good things I'm pointing out. It's unfortunate with Seiya Suzuki with his second injury, and I think he was kind of struggling before that as well. So I'm hoping that he has a speedy recovery, he comes back, and feeling good about himself. So it's just it's nothing this week. Last week really surprised me too much, but there are so many good things to point at for the Cubs for Cubs fans to feel good about going forward.
Yeah, and one of those things we mentioned before, Stroman, he had a pretty bad April overall. I think it was like a
Yeah,
6.98 ERA.
yeah,
And then he in May he's had a 2.12 ERA. So it's
yeah.
been a nice turnaround for him in general. It's a
Hmm.
nice confidence booster. And of course in that game against the White Sox, went 7 innings, shutout ball, and it was cool to see him kind of match Dylan Cease pitch for pitch. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, there's plenty of pluses to take out of that week, regardless of the win-loss record. And Keegan Thompson again. I mean, just how good has he been? Really, like even the past 2 seasons. I mean, last year, he had, I believe, or he started last season with 17, or actually his first 17 innings, he gave up 2 runs. And then this year, he started 2022 with 12 scoreless innings, and right now he has a 158 earned run average. His WHIP is 1.03, and his exit velocity is 85.7. Puts him in the top 9% of the league. So he's dealing, and he's giving a hard time to the batters. And it's for Cubs team that's over the years, like we've talked about this before on the show, is how the Cubs have not been able to develop pitching. And even a guy like Keegan Thompson, and we have a lot of guys in the pipeline, Caleb Killian, Cole Franklin, guys that are coming up that hopefully will be, a part of the next Cubs playoff team that will mostly, hopefully, um, uh, led by pitching, because that's, I think, super important. I mean, we've seen teams in the past led by their pitching, like the New York Mets that beat the Cubs in 2015 with Syndergaard, DeGrom. So it would be cool to see the Cubs have a team like that, like dominant, from the pitching side. But also it's also cool to see the Cubs actually call up someone else from the minors, which is Nelson Velasquez. I mean, the guy's been raking since 2021. From what I've seen and heard, he's got major power. I mean, 32 home runs since the start of 2021. So it'll be cool to see how he fits in, and what kind of spark he can give the Cubs. I mean, look at, and when I said it before, Christopher Morel. I mean, he's kind of been a little bit of a spark for the Cubs in the last week, like a catalyst. I've heard people call during the games, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what the Cubs need, right? It's like, as much as it's not much is expected from the Cubs to have some kind of excitement to watch the games, like guys like Suzuki, guys like Contreras, guy, to add something in there. I think it's good for the fans.
Yeah.
It's good for the overall morale of the fan base and stuff like that. So it's cool to see stuff like that, in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
But definitely going to be a big week. Mentioned that before we got on. I mean, we got 4 against the Brewers, and then 5 against St. Louis, all at home. But it'll be a good kind of like a litmus test for the Cubs. Again,
Yeah.
you don't really expect them to go out there and win these series against the Brewers and Cardinals, but
Right.
you just kind of hope they hold their own, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, keeping I think with them being at home, that's a big plus for them. You got the two best teams in the Central coming to town. A lot of games against them. Um, I think the Cubs are better at home. I think they are a more confident team when they are playing at home. So I like it. I think it's gonna be some really good baseball. We might see them get their butts kicked a little bit here and there, but that energy in the stadium is gonna be there. That competitive edge, like I was talking about earlier, is gonna be there. So many of these games against teams in the Central, if you notice this year, there's been a lot of personal things going on with a lot of these teams. There's been incidents with the Brewers. There's been incidents with the Pirates. There's been incidents with the Reds. Let's see what happens when the Cardinals come to town. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch. And we're already off to a start as we're recording this podcast, this episode. So it's gonna be cool. I think the Cubs are going to hold their own, but I'm not expecting them to surprise us in some sort of way. They can, but it's this team isn't built to do that yet, but they will.
Yeah, and regardless, it's gonna be cool to see how the Cubs can, I guess, if they're able to, get some wins in these series, to see how they mess with the Central Division, because obviously these are the two teams that are atop the Central Division, with the Brewers and Cardinals. Just 3.5 games separate them. So it's always fun to be able to spoil things and mess with the races. So hopefully the Cubs are able to do that, because it'll be fun in general. All right, now that we're done with the Cubs side of things, we're going to shift over to the White Sox, talk a little bit about their week, as well as the Crosstown showdown over the week, the second Crosstown series of the year. And we're going to bring in Chris Pennant. All right, here we go. All right, we are joined by our fellow WARR Media member, Chris Pennant, and you can hear him talk Chicago Sky along with the rest of the WNBA on his podcast, The Skyhook, with his co-host James K., which is available on all major platforms like Apple and Spotify. Chris is also a huge White Sox fan, and he's here to talk Southside baseball. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, appreciate you having me on again. It's good to be on, Saul.
For sure. So obviously, a big series happened this weekend with the Cubs and White Sox, the second Crosstown Classic. It was an even tie, 1-1. But they were, great games, especially with, the pitching duo from Sunday. Obviously the Cubs were able to win the first game, but the White Sox came out with that extra inning win on Sunday. Before we get to that, I'm kind of curious, Chris, on your thoughts on the first series of the week last week against the Red Sox at Guaranteed Rate Field. It was tough. That is definitely really tough score wise. But what did you see from that series? What went wrong?
More of the same. We need an elite pitching performance and just enough offense to get through on the win on Wednesday. Good to see Jake Berger hitting. It's everybody knows, and I'm sure he's tired of talking and thinking about how tough a road it was for him, the 2 separate Achilles injuries and then having his 2020 season wiped away. And he's had a chance last year and this year to show what he's made of. He plays a pretty good third base, albeit with the one error yesterday afternoon. And he can hit. The man can hit. He's not just a long ball guy. He's not a Mark Reynolds in there to hit a home run type dude. He can put the ball in the outfield. He can put the ball in play for something other than a home run when it's necessary, which he showcased yesterday. I thought what he said when he hit that home run off Rich Hill was pretty telling, being that Rich Hill is a veteran who's taken no-hit bids late in the games. He got fooled on the same pitch right before that, and I was listening on the radio. He was way out in front, and he said after it, he's like, he came in with the same pitch, and I was way off on it. He came in with the same one, and it was a 69-mile-an-hour slider, and he hit that thing about 420 feet. So this is not just a Daniel Palka type player, He is in there. He's a cerebral baseball player. He thinks along with the pitcher every at bat. And I don't think you see that from a guy as young as him very often, especially a guy who's had to deal with such adversity. So really good to see Jake Berger. But for the White Sox overall, they need to figure it out, and they need to figure it out fast. They are hitting in a way that they weren't in April and even in early May. but they are not getting key hits and key moments, and they're still making silly mistakes when they have runners on base. I don't think it falls on just management. I don't think it falls on just the coaching staff. It's a team issue. And I don't know how to change it. Back in the old days, there's a story about the Yankees turning their season around because somebody was playing a harmonica on the bus and Yogi Berra jumped him, and then they ran off like 40 wins out of the next 50 games. I don't think you can do something like that these days, but the Sox need something. They need some kind of weird spark to come from somewhere. Whether I was hoping it was the Josh Donaldson incident because they won 2 in Yankee Stadium and then they come back home and get absolutely thrashed by the Red Sox 2 out of 3. I'm not sure. Man.
No, yeah, and I think in that series too, the whole thing with the 16 runs. I mean, the Cubs were right there too. I mean, I think it was like the first time in franchise history that both teams allowed 16 plus runs in the same day. Or at least I think it was either that or I think it was the White Sox allowed 2 16 plus run performances in the same series, something like that. But it was still insane to see that. But yeah, Jake Berger, I mean, he looks really good, man, and I think the home runs that he's hit has been super impressive. But it looks like you're also ready to hit a home run with that, bat around, on your shoulder right there. But no, it's been obviously very inconsistent for the White Sox. But yeah, the hitting, at least, like there's something. I feel like they haven't been able to match up. Like the hitting and the pitching haven't been able to match up. And it looked like after the Yankee series, you're hoping a little bit of the clutch hitting was able to inspire, and was able to carry on, but it wasn't obviously quite there just yet. But now going over to the Crosstown Series, obviously lost game 1, but they were able to, I think that was a really good win on Sunday for the White Sox to get, because they kept coming back. It was a very resilient win. It was a good matchup in general. Dylan Cease, I mean, could have easily had, he technically had those 7 shutout innings. So it was just an unearned run, ball that got past Jake Berger for an error. But yeah, like, what did you see in the Crosstown Series? Like, what are your main takeaways?
I thought Cease walked a couple when he shouldn't have. Granted, Patrick Wisdom's a good OBP guy, but he had a good outing to bounce back from a couple tough ones, the loss against Boston, and then the loss he had the week before that, I believe, against the Yankees, where he struck out 11 but gave up 6 runs. He's a key to the team going forward this year, especially the way that the hitting has gone. He's a guy that has to be not on every single time, but more often than not, the Sox have to be confident when he goes on the mound. And the fan base has been confident when he's gone on the mound so far this season, and it's a well-deserved credit to him. I thought that he was locating well. He was getting some swings and misses, not as many as he had been through the first month or month and a half of the season. But like I said, it was a bounce back outing for him. He's a guy that stays cool no matter what. And I think that he's destined to have a solid year. Maybe not Cy Young, but at least in the mix to get some votes at the end of the season. I don't think he's going to tail off or fall off anytime soon from what he showed yesterday.
No, yeah, it was his ERA really took a hit in that Red Sox series. But hopefully, I think he'll be fine. He's still going to be able to put together a good, season in general. And, going into the season, I mean, me and Miles talked about it. I didn't think it was going to be this season that he'd take off like this. Like, I feel like he, even seeing him through the Cubs system, he always had the stuff, but it was about putting it together. And really this year, I mean, it's been nasty. There's been some, outings where he hasn't had his best stuff and he's still striking out like 11. Like it's been pretty impressive in general. And you kind of touched on it, in general about like the decisions from the team in general, like what has gone wrong with the team. But your overall thoughts on Tony La Russa and where are you at with him right now?
I think I've heard enough about Tony as a manager. We know that people are going to say maybe his teams just did it for him. I don't think that's really the case. Chris Ranji, who I respect a lot, said that baseball managers weren't necessarily as important. I think sometimes they can get you more losses than wins, as Kevin Cash showed when he took Blake Snell out in the World Series. But I think Tony's a good baseball mind, a good baseball manager who's made a lot of mistakes since he's been with the White Sox. That said, when he refuted what Gabe Kapler said this past week, I thought that was, one, not something that he needs to comment on, two, just wrong. Tony off the field is, I think, what you would expect from a guy his age. You just really would. There's a certain point in your life where you can't accept new things, and it's very, very hard to process new information versus what you've experienced in your life. So I think that informs some of what he does as a baseball manager. Not all of it, but a good amount. And no matter how close of a relationship Tim Anderson and the rest of the guys have with him, because I believe they do respect and get along with him well. And he has defended his guys, as we saw last year in the playoffs and late in the season. I don't think he's the right guy. I don't know who I would put in that seat who's available. I don't necessarily think he's the right guy. He was the right guy in the 90s after Hawk Harrelson fired him. He was the right guy in the 2000s when there was no way he was leaving the Cardinals. He's not the right guy now.
No, yeah, and me and Miles have talked about it too, and just in general about like the Tony La Russa situation. Like the way I see it is like, it may be tough to like for a White Sox fan to hear, but in my opinion, I don't think Tony La Russa is going to be the guy that takes the White Sox to the World Series, or at least to a title, I should say. Like at least I think if this year, for example, like it might be, like I said, a tough pill to swallow in general, in when it comes to like hearing this. But like if the White Sox, let's say they don't make the playoffs, I expect them to still, but let's say they don't, and they fire Tony La Russa, it's like a blessing in disguise, I think, because if the White Sox go out there and get the right guy, as you said, it may not, it's not always on the manager, it's not always, it comes down to the players, but I still think it's that leadership when it comes to bullpen, because I know a lot of people have been talking about the lineup and the decisions with the bullpen and stuff like that. So I think it has some effect, but yeah, at the end of the day, the players have to do it. But I think for some reason, there's just something about the Tony La Russa thing that is just not. It hasn't worked up to this point. Miles, what do you have to say about that in general with Tony La Russa?
Yeah, I think coming from a player's standpoint, there are definitely decisions that he's made that weren't favorable for the White Sox. But I think to his credit, last year this team did have a lot of success. In a few ways, what I'm looking at when I'm watching this team, they have lost some of that momentum, and I still think that they are a very talented team, but I think there are still some things that they're trying to figure out in terms of what they want to do. And so my question for you, Chris, is when you look at the situation with Liam Hendriks and other holes in that bullpen, what do you think the answer is for them when it comes to that? Because that is a very big point, in why they're struggling and what they can improve on. So when you look at that, what is something you see that they could do better with?
I really think it comes more to hitting. The injury to Joe Kelly when he was starting to get in the groove really hurt. And obviously there's some guys in the bullpen who have had bad days, but when you put more pressure on the bullpen by having these missed chances in 2-1 games, 3-1 games, even 4-2 games, you don't expect those guys to be as rock solid as they were even last season. I'm not saying something. Matt Foster was not rock solid last season. Neither was Cody Hoyer. Foster's turned things around to a fantastic degree. It's really great to see him pitching well. But I think it really comes down more to the offense and then proper utilization of the bullpen in key moments, as well as when you have a 7-5 game that somehow ends up 16-7, maybe not putting Tanner Banks in that situation or getting him out quickly. We saw that with Foster in Seattle early in the season last year, where he stayed in 3 or 4 batters too long. That was a winnable game that the Sox let go because of bullpen management. At the same time, you put more runners on base to get them in. Some of those 42 games become 6-2, and you have less pressure on those guys in situations. Jose Ruiz actually showed that he could pitch in tight games early on in the season. I know it's April and the ball is not juiced like it was, but some of his regression is due to more pressure from tighter games. I really think that's a bigger problem for the White Sox than any bullpen failings, because Graveman, Hendricks, Kelly when he's healthy, even Bennett Sosa and there was Banks early in the season, and there's somebody that I'm missing now. Foster, let's say Foster, have shown that they can get guys out in spots where they really, really need to. You just need to do it where they don't have as much of a load on their shoulders.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen the positives when it comes to the bullpen. Those guys that have showed up when other guys haven't, like Matt Foster has been really great this season. But also the rotation's been interesting because, or at least what's going to happen in the in the next couple months. But I was going to ask you, a lot of people have been talking about how it's going to be set up once everyone is healthy, once everyone's back. How do you see the rotation setting up? A lot of people have talked, oh, what if it could be like a 6-man? I think they've said they're not going to go to a 6-man, but like, what do you see as the best way that they could put this rotation together once healthy?
I think Lucas is your top guy, and then you could say 2, 3, Cease or Lynn. I would probably have Lance Lynn as the 3. After Cease, just because he's coming back from injury. And I'm not exactly sure how things will work out. He's a primarily fastball type pitcher. And playing the teams that we're playing, they're covering the fastball. That's another problem with the White Sox offense. They do not cover the fastball well for some reason. Other teams, I think, cover the fastball better. The Royals got smashed by KC. The Royals got smashed by Minnesota this past weekend. Royals worked the White Sox over primarily because they can cover the fastball. So I want to see how Lance Lynn does in his first couple of outings, and then you could shift the rotation a bit. But you have Giolito, Cease, Lynn, Kopech, and Cueto. And that, I think, rounds things out for me.
No, yeah, and I think it's been good to see also Cueto come in and fit in, just right. And I've even heard some people talk about how with the because the Kopech situation, obviously it being how they're going to limit his pitches, like how it could even be like a Cueto Kopech piggyback type thing. What is your overall like opinion on what the whole thing with Kopech, and you think they're handling the situation right when it comes to like limiting and how they're handling him from as a starter?
That's a tough question. That's a tough question. I think some of that might be recognizing that if they do get to the playoffs, it will be a wild card situation. If they really think that the team can't turn things around, and you don't want to have him push for a team that's not going to make a deep run. And to that point, there is a time where you have to recognize who you are. I'm not quite ready to cash in yet, but I've been the most disappointed in the team as I have been the last 10 days or so. This is the point where I'm wondering if they're ever going to find that spark to turn it around. And with that mindset, you want to have Kopech pitching long next year and the year after that if you're really trying to hold the core together. So I wouldn't necessarily put him on like an 80 pitch limit, because you want him to have outings like he had against the Yankees. That was so good. That national TV game is the Michael Kopech that you want. Attacking hitters, not limiting the strike, not nibbling at the strike zone, making them come after his pitches. And that's where you force the CSWs, the called strikes and whiffs. So I would say if you're going to limit him, go 85 or 90, and then let him know we want to see you going at least 6, because I don't want to see Michael Kopech flummoxing hitters and then look up and he's throwing 75 pitches through 3 2/3. That's why I'm not really up on a pitch limitation. But if you're trying to kick the can a bit down the road, then I think, yeah, maybe you do limit his outings.
So when you look at this team, you talked about it's not really the pitching that you're worried about. So what about offensively can you see this team improve on? What would you like to see in terms of them, shipping guys out or bringing guys in? What exactly do you want to see? Do you want to see Grandal still start behind the plate, or do you want to see McGuire get more of a chance? What do you think it is?
I think Reese McGuire, yesterday in the extra innings notwithstanding, doesn't give as many at-bats away. It's funny that his average is so low, because I've liked his approach at the plate. He's a backup. He's a backup catcher. Backup catchers don't hit 280, but I've liked what he's done when he's been up. He's a guy who can handle the bat. He can put the bat on the ball. He can bunt. He'll take pitches. He'll take walks. I think his OBP is at least 100 points higher than his average, which for a backup catcher, fantastic. That's not a guy you can, I mean, again, yesterday notwithstanding, when he just looked completely out of it, that's not a guy that you can go and say, hit my best stuff. He'll foul balls off. For the entire lineup, pick a lineup and stick with it for a week. That's on the coaching staff, but select pitches better. Look for balls where you can foul them off, spoil pitches. You're not trying to put the ball in play every single time. Spoil some pitches, better pitch selection. That's the thing I've consistently seen from everybody who is a White Sox fan, whether they are the most knowledgeable person out there or whether they are Tim from Villa Park who wishes that the DH was not a thing for either league. Take more pitches, be more judicious with your pitch selection, That's what the White Sox can do better. Tim Anderson started taking walks because he knew that the team needed guys to get on base. It's going to help when Eloy Jimenez comes back. Hopefully he's not seriously injured after he came out after his first at bat in AAA. White Jesus Christ. But be more judicious with the pitches that you take big swings at. You can afford to spoil some pitches. It's not a lost art in baseball. It really isn't. But the White Sox need to get better pitches to hit so they can hit them hard. A lot of these times now that they're registering 8-9 hits a game, how many of those are singles? They need more extra base hits. So I think that would be the key. That's the key first and foremost. Yeah, you've got to get a lineup where guys know where they are, know where they're going to be, so they can think along with that as they go into the game, but choose your pitches more wisely.
Yeah, no, yeah, that, and I think, kind of playing off that, and when you talk about the injuries, and yeah, with Eloy Jimenez, I mean, I was telling one of my buddies as a Sox fan, I was like, dude, I don't know, because how they said they're kind of, he might be able to get here or come back earlier. I don't know if he should. I mean, I think with that type of guy, I think like they should just play it safe. I know that it's tough right now, the offense. I think they see that, he probably sees it too. He's like, oh, they need my help. Like, I got to go back. But I don't know, the way his trajectory has been when it comes to injuries, I feel like you're probably better off playing it safe. Obviously, also it also doesn't help that Tim Anderson now is out.
Right.
So what do you think it is? Like, do you think that when the Yankees had this like last year, the past couple seasons, it was people called for the training staff of the Yankees. They got a whole new one, like so like what do you think the problem is there? Like, because it's crazy to me. Like all season, right? This year it's just been injury after injury after injury. I mean, we haven't seen a fully healthy White Sox team. And with a few months to go, like, do you think they're going to be able to pull that off and at least have like a couple months of a fully healthy White Sox team?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think that there is something to that because before the White Sox got to this point, we didn't really see what people said, these soft tissue injuries for the White Sox. So many of these guys getting hurt, just running out grounders to first base. And you want to see your team go hard like that. Not every single time, but if it's a close play with the guys that we have that are fast, Robert, Anderson, even Eloy was running better in a straight line than he had in his career. Why are these guys getting hurt every single time? Leury Garcia got hurt in 2020 running out of grounder to first base. I think Nick Madrigal missed some time that year for something similar. And it's really not a good look with Brian Ball, the former trainer, coming and accusing the White Sox of being fired because of his sexual orientation. And I don't remember the Sox having injuries like this when they had Brian Ball, when they even going back further, when they had Dale Torborg as the strength coach. So I think there is some validity to that. If the guys that you have aren't doing the things right, and that is something that I'm not studying. I'm not studied in kinesiology, physical therapy, orthopedics, chiropractic medicine, any of that. But you need your best players on the field. And if the trainers and the conditioning staff that you have aren't doing it, you've got to get somebody who will.
No, yeah, it's really strange, and just that. I mean, yeah, you bring up a good point with that situation in general of the former trainer. But yeah, one more thing on the White Sox that we did want to get around is kind of what do you see happening at the trade deadline? Who do you have? Is there a particular player you want to see the Sox bring in, or just what's their main needs in general?
Well, with Tim, it kind of showcased their lack of infield depth on the 40-man roster. Danny Mendick can't replace. I'm not really many players in the major leagues can replace what Tim Anderson does for you night in and night out. So let me back that up. But Danny Mendick is a good utility guy to have who can play the middle infield, but he's not a guy that you would necessarily want in there every single day. Probably a 230 guy with some power. And Leury Garcia is being burned in effigy at any given time in somebody's house. So people aren't going to be satisfied with that. So I'm not sure who you would go out and get as a middle infield candidate. Cesar Hernandez just didn't work out last season. So I'm not sure how confident I am in the White Sox ability to pick talent off the waiver wire. Internally, I think Gavin Sheets is a pretty good trade candidate. He's a left-handed bat with some power, who has shown, even though he's very young, that he will take what the defense gives him. That double down the line yesterday with the shift on was a proof of that. And he's done that more than a few times this season. He did it against the Cubs. He didn't hit the ball hard, but he hit it away from the shift. He's a guy who can think about that to get on base. That being said, he needs to work on his pitch selection. Another team might be able to do that. And so he's a guy who is not a major league ready guy, still a prospect. And I think a team would be able to part with a veteran guy who's in the last year of his contract for a player like that. So I'm not sure who you bring in, but I think as a trade candidate, Sheets would be the first guy who I would say, yeah, we can afford to let him go, and maybe somebody else in the minors who to get back a piece who can help this season.
No, yeah, that's I think a lot of people have talked about that situation when it comes to Sheets and the type of trade pieces you guys have. All right, so we'll leave it like that for the White Sox. Now we'll get a little bit now around the league. We'll keep Chris on to talk just a little bit about what's going on on other teams. Like, for example, me and Miles talked about it before we started the show today, is a little bit about Tommy Pham and Jock Peterson, that whole situation. So apparently, from what I've heard, is Tommy Pham came up to Jock in the outfield before the game. I guess he slapped him, something about fantasy football and how Jock was messing around with players. I think the situation is hilarious. Miles, what did you think overall about this situation?
Yeah, I think it's funny and like pretty stupid at the same time. With the amount of with the amount of money that's going around right now in the MLB, with in particular with these two players, it's a very unnecessary situation that takes place. And kind of the way that Tommy Pham like handled it was a bit comical. So a lot of people that are seeing his response as why that happened, people are kind of laughing at him. They're kind of like, okay, well, that was kind of corny, dude, but whatever. And Jock Peterson is actually a really liked guy around the league and liked amongst a lot of fans as well. So he has that going for him. And banter happens. The little back and forths of making fun of teams. Fans do, but it is different when it's the players talking to other players about it. It is more personal, but kind of, in my opinion, kind of a silly situation. I think 3 games is just right. But Tommy Pham he's had some very interesting moments this year in terms of what has come out of his mouth. So it's not too surprised by this. I look forward to seeing what else happens with him in 2022.
No, yeah, you go ahead, Chris. What did you think about this?
Yeah, I agree with Miles. Tommy is an interesting character. I remember when he talked about, I think it was in the playoffs in 2020, about the whole playing catch with your dad thing, and he's like, I didn't have a dad to play catch with, so that wasn't, I don't identify it with that, pretty much is what he said. And I had a similar situation. If I wasn't playing catch with my mom, but she was the person who took me to all the times when I was, bugging her about baseball and baseball games. So I respected him for that. But he is, I'll say contentious in that. slapping a dude over fantasy football is dumb. Let's get that out of the way first and foremost. Like everybody, I'm gonna look in the camera for this one. Everybody watching the show, fantasy football is not that worth it. I know the media has told you different. I know the people in your office have told you different. I know your girlfriend or whomever or the league have told you different with all the emails and stuff that they've sent you about beating your team and how trash your squad was. It's not that serious. You are not a NFL exec. So if you pick a bad team, hey, it's all right. So you don't need to go slapping somebody in the outfield just because they said something about your fantasy football team. Like if they said something about your teammates, yeah, I get it, but you there's a place to handle that. Handle that in the tunnel. Handle that in the locker room. The news will come out.
Yeah.
But that'll at least be hearsay. This one, we caught you on video slapping some dude, and you didn't even slap him out. You just slapped him.
Right,
like,
yeah.
If you're gonna do it, you better make sure he stays down.
Yeah,
At least make it worth it.
Gotta put him down. He just gave him a little tap, and Jock was like, "Oh, wow, all right."
Right, like, come on, man. Tommy, that's the thing. If I have lost some respect for Tommy, it's the fact that he is this tough dude, and I don't. He is tough. He has shown toughness in his career. But, bruh, get your hand game up. Get your hand game up.
Keep my teammate's name. Sorry, go ahead. Won't go there. Beat the dead horse, guys.
No, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tommy did that, to be honest. But no, with Tommy too, it's like like a couple months ago, right? I think it was when Luke Voigt, I think he crashed into, I think it was Tyler Stevenson, one of their catchers. He hit them at home plate, and then I know Tommy said something about like if Luke Voigt wanted to like fight, go 1-on-1, that he has a buddy in San Diego who has like a UFC ring or something like that he could like, they can go, fight. I was like, all right, Tommy. All right. Like, I was like, okay. I mean, so I guess this is just another part of Tommy Pham's saga that's going to continue to unravel here in 2022, because I wouldn't be surprised if there's something else that happens with Tommy Pham, man. But all right, Chris, we're going to let you go on that one. Thanks for coming on. And of course, you can catch Chris Pennant on his podcast called The Skyhook with his co-host James K, which is available on all major platforms on Apple and Spotify. So, Chris, thanks for joining us, man, and I'm sure we'll have you on later on this season.
Appreciate it, man. I gotta say one thing though. You gotta warn me next time I'm coming on with Miles, so I can do the Star-Lord and get my voice deeper, because you were killing me. You were killing me with that, man. I did not expect it, and I was like, damn. This man sounds like a grown ass man compared to me right now. Like I gotta come back and be ready. I gotta be ready. Thanks for having me on, y'all. This was a blast.
Appreciate it.
No,
man.
of course, man. Anytime, man. Take it easy.
Y'all be easy.
All right. Thanks again to Chris for coming on. That was really fun, man. And like I said, it'd be really cool to have him on again later on in the season to see what the White Sox do at the deadline, or just in general before the playoffs. And so, Miles, before we close things out, I did want to talk a little bit about the Connect jerseys, get your opinion on the new ones that have come out. I know at least the Rockies officially came out. The Rockies one officially came out. And when I edit this, I'll put in a photo for the video. But also the Angels one leaked. But what are your thoughts on overall on those two jerseys? I know, in my opinion, the Rockies one is awesome. Like, it's probably the best one, the best Connect jersey. I know I've always said for me, my favorite one has been the White Sox one. But for sure, that Rockies one is got to be it's number one for me now.
Yeah, I really like the Rockies ones. I like them a lot. I think the green is like a cool little contrast. And I think that's something I've liked a lot about a lot of these city jerseys, is that the teams are kind of going outside of the usual color and really getting creative. So I like them. I like them a lot. I don't know if I'd put them at my top, because I'm still a pretty big fan of the Marlins City Connect jerseys. Yeah. But the leaked the leaked Angels jerseys as well. I think those ones are absolutely fire. As well. Great jerseys. I love the Colorado. I love the numbers pretty big as well, which I think is kind of cool. I like them. I think they're cool.
No, yeah, I love the way that what they're doing with these Connect jerseys. I do hope though that they come out with new ones every year. I know the Cubs are using the same ones, the Sox are using the same ones. The Sox,
Yeah.
I don't have the problem with that, but the Cubs one, obviously, a lot of people didn't like. I didn't like. So I hope every year, I hope next year they get a new one. But
The
I think
Cubs ones grew on me. I didn't like it. I didn't like him at first. I was on Benny J's show talking about it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
In like a month and a half later, I was like, oh wow, I kind of like them. They just grew on me. I don't know how. It's out of nowhere.
And I think, and it's funny because for me, it's like it's not even like it's little things. So if they would have just made like the Wrigleyville thing just straight, how it you know how they have Chicago on the away.
Yeah, I get that.
Like it would have been I would have been better. But I mean, I don't hate it. But it's just for me, it's just probably like they're slower on my list when it comes to in general because of like the effort on the design too. Is like they could have added a little more if they had a little more design on it. But I mean, obviously, to a lot of people, I've seen a lot of lists, and what's last on it is usually the Dodgers one, which I thought was funny because it's really nothing new. It's just blue jersey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So it's.
I don't
really
think the Cubs have worn theirs this year yet, if I'm not
mistaken.
No,
they just released a schedule this year they just released it. They're gonna start wearing it, I think, in June. On Friday games or something like that.
That makes sense. Yep.
So yeah, it'll and at the end of the day though, I like the Connect jerseys because it's different from what they have. It's something different. I like what the NBA did with the jersey. So at the end of the day, I'm glad they got it, even if it's not my favorite. So I'm good.
Think the Yankees will do it?
I hope so. I don't.
I hope the Yankees do it. I feel like it's not really in like the Yankee culture to do something like that because they're very hard nosed. I hope they do it.
Yeah, no, my friend, like I've said before, my friend who's a Yankees fan, he doesn't think they're gonna do it because it's just the way they do things. He wants it to happen. Yeah. Like he's always wanted an alternate. Like I know some fans have also called for an alternate jersey for the Yankees because they've had great opportunities. Like they have the colors for it. Like imagine for example, the one that in spring training, the Yankees have like a dark navy one that they use. Yeah. And it's like that'd be perfect for an alternate, So they have. I mean, it's just one of those things, man. Like I mean, it's like, I mean, the fact that they don't let them grow beards still is just. I mean, what? Like the fact that
Carpenter's mustache is kind of sick though.
The stash. No, yeah, and I'm glad they at least let them do the stash. It's better than nothing. But unfortunately, if either of us got signed by the Yankees, we have to shave. And I'm like,
ladies and gentlemen, you do not want to see that. That's like Miles. It's like Miles in high school, middle school. That's a rough sight.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I haven't been clean shaven since like freshman year of high school, bro. So like, I don't think anybody wants to see that either. I look like a baby. So I'm good. I'm good on that.
This is the closest I keep it to the face. Usually I used to have it like really big. Now I keep it closer to the face just to look less crazy.
For real. I mean, right now it's a little wild. I'm like letting it go a little bit, but
that's dope. That's dope.
But I definitely got to. I got like the Jake Arrieta thing going on right now with the.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. All right, man. So we'll wrap things up there for episode 9 of the At Bat Baseball podcast. Good luck this weekend, Miles. Hit a bomb or something. Hopefully you get that grand slam this time around.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely join us next week, and hope everyone has a great week. All right.